Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namane Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyatya Deshatarane Krishna 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 Hey Krishna 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 Hey Krishna 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 Rakshamam Krishna 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 Pahimam Rama Raghava Rama Raghava Rama Raghava Rakshamam Krishna Keshava Krishna Keshava Krishna Keshava Pahimam Nitai Gauranga Nitai Gauranga Nitai Gauranga Goda Hari Goda Hari Jaya Goda Hari Nitai Gauranga Goda Hari Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasa Adigaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Nama Krishna Yadavaya Namaha Gopala Govinda Rama Sri Madhusudana Govinda Jaya Jaya Gopala Jaya Jaya Radha Ramana Hari Govinda Jaya Jaya Radha Ramana Hari Govinda Jaya Jaya Radha Ramana Hari Govinda Jaya Jaya Om Apavitra Pavitro Va Sarva Avastanga Piva Yat Smaret Pundarik Akshang Sabhaya Abhyantara Suchihi Sri Vishnu Sri Vishnu Sri Vishnu Om Ajnana Timurandhasya Jnana Anjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Mukhaṁ Karoti Vachalam Pangam Langhayate Girim Yat Kripa Tamahang Bandi Sri Gurung Dinacharanam Yat Kripa Tamahang Bandi Parama Ananda Madhavam Trinadapi Sunichena Tarar Iva Sahishnuna Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadahari Hare Nama Hare Nama Hare Nama Eva Kevalam Kalau Nastyeva 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 Gatir Anyata. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, we are finishing up this section which we started several weeks ago. The assembly of the Dwarkaites and the Vrindavanites, they have met at Kurukshetra to observe the solar eclipse. Last class we heard of the arrival of the sages and ascetics. Then Krishna addressed the sages and ascetics, and then after hearing Krishna's glorification of themselves, the sages and ascetics glorified Krishna. Today, we will perhaps finish up, we'll have to see how we do, but this first section is entitled, Narada Addresses the Assembled Sages. After first offering prayers to Lord Krishna, the assembled sages wanted to take permission from King Dhritarashtra and King Yudhishthir and then depart for their respective ashrams. However, at that time, Vasudeva, the father of Lord Krishna, and the most celebrated of all pious men, approached the sages and with great humility offered his respects by falling down at their feet. Vasudeva then said, "O my dear great sages, you are more respected than the demigods. I therefore offer my respectful obeisances unto you. I wish that you will accept my only request, if you so desire. And I shall consider it a great blessing if you kindly explain the supreme fruitive activity by which one can counteract the reactions of all other activities." Prabhupada now comments. Vasudeva addressed the sages as the residents of all the demigods. His statement is confirmed in the authoritative Shruti mantras which declare, Yavatir vai devatasta sarva veda vidi brahmane vasanti. Whatever demigods exist, all of the demigods reside in a brahmana who knows the Veda. The great sage Narada was the leader of all the sages who were present there. Therefore, Narada ji began speaking. My dear sages, it is not very difficult to understand that because of his great goodness and simplicity, Vasudeva, who has become the father of the personality of Godhead, by accepting Krishna as his son, is inclined to ask us about his welfare. It is said that familiarity breeds contempt. As such, Vasudeva, having Krishna as his son, does not seem to regard Krishna with awe and veneration. Sometimes it is seen that persons who are living on the bank of the Ganges do not consider the Ganges to be very important, and so they go far away in order to take their bath at a place of pilgrimage. So being that Lord Krishna, whose knowledge is never second in any circumstance, is personally present, therefore there is no need of Vasudev's asking us for instruction. As it is, Lord Krishna is not affected by the process of creation, maintenance, and annihilation. Krishna's knowledge is never influenced by any agency beyond himself. Krishna is not agitated by the interaction of the material qualities which changes things in the different modes of time. Krishna's transcendental form is full of knowledge which never becomes agitated by ignorance, by pride, by attachment, envy, or sense enjoyment. Krishna's knowledge is never subjected to the laws of karma regarding pious or impious activities. Nor is Krishna's knowledge influenced by the three modes of material energy, sattva, rajas, and tamas. Krishna is asamordva. No one is greater than or equal to Krishna, because Krishna is the supreme authority, the supreme personality of Godhead. The ordinary conditioned human being may think that the conditioned soul, covered by material senses, mind, and intelligence, to be equal to Krishna. But Lord Krishna is just like the sun, which, although it sometimes may appear to be so, is never actually covered by clouds, snow, or fog, or by other planets. When the eyes of less intelligent men are covered by such influences, they think the sun to be invisible. Similarly, persons influenced by the senses and addicted to material enjoyment cannot have a clear vision of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sri Narada understood how Vasudeva, in line with his mood of pretending to be an ordinary householder, asked the sages about karma yoga. Although Vasudeva had already attained spiritual goals which even great yogis and rishis cannot themselves achieve. But Narada was still concerned that Vasudeva might create an awkward mood by treating Lord Krishna as a mere child in the presence of all the sages. Narada and the other sages felt obliged to maintain their attitude of reverence toward Lord Krishna. Therefore, how could they ignore Krishna and presume to answer Vasudeva themselves? So, in order to avoid this embarrassment, Narada took this opportunity to remind everyone present of Sri Krishna's absolute supremacy. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Next, the next episode, the sages instruct Krishna's father, Vasudeva. The sages present then began addressing Vasudeva in the presence of Lord Krishna, Balaram, and many other kings, and as requested by Vasudeva, the sages gave their instructions. Dear Vasudeva, to counteract the reaction of karma, or desires impelling one to fruitive activities, one must execute the prescribed sacrifices which are meant for worshiping Lord Vishnu with faith and devotion. After all, Lord Vishnu is the beneficiary of the results of all sacrificial performances. That is why he is known as Yajna Ishwara or Yajneshwara. Great personalities and sages who are sufficiently experienced to possess vision of the three phases of the time element, namely past, present, and future, and those who are able to see everything clearly through the eyes of revealed scriptures, have unanimously recommended that to purify the dust of material contamination accumulated in the heart, and to clear the path of liberation and thereby achieve transcendental bliss, one must please Lord Vishnu. For everyone in the different social orders, namely Brahmana, Kshatriya, and Vaishya, who are living as householders, this worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, who is known as Purusha Uttama, the original person, is recommended as the only auspicious path. All conditioned souls within this material world have deep-rooted desires to lord it over the resources of material nature. Everyone wants to accumulate riches. Everyone wants to enjoy life to the greatest extent. Everyone wants a wife, home, and children. And everyone wants to become happy in this world and ultimately be elevated to the heavenly planets in the next life. However, all of these desires are the causes of one's material bondage. Therefore, to get liberation from this bondage, one has to sacrifice one's honestly earned riches for the satisfaction of Lord Vishnu. The only process to counteract all sorts of material desire is to engage oneself in the devotional service of Lord Vishnu. In this way, a self-controlled person, even while remaining in householder life, should give up the three kinds of material desires, namely, desire for the acquisition of material opulences, the enjoyment of wife and children, and elevation to higher planets. Eventually, one may give up householder life and accept the renounced order of life, engaging oneself completely in the devotional service of Lord Krishna. Everyone, even if born in a higher status of life, such as a Brahmana, Kshatriya, or Vaishya, is certainly indebted to the demigods, to the sages, to the forefathers, to living entities, and so on. So in order to liquidate all these debts, one has to perform sacrifices. One has to study the Vedic literature, and one has to generate children in religious householder life. If one leaves the body without first liquidating these debts, one must fall down into a hellish condition. O Vasudeva, today you have already liquidated your debts to your forefathers and the sages. Now, by performing sacrifice, you can free yourself from indebtedness to the demigods and thus take complete shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Oh, my dear Vasudeva, certainly you have already performed many pious activities in your previous lives. Otherwise, how could you be the father of Krishna and Balaram, who are the Supreme Personality of Godhead? In this way, the sages instructed Vasudeva. Now we have notes found in the purports of the 10th canto. Both Sridhar Swami and Sri Jiva Goswami here agree that the ritual karma of Vedic sacrifice is particularly meant for householders who are attached. But those who are already renounced in Krishna consciousness, like Vasudeva, need only cultivate their faith in the Lord's devotees, faith in Krishna's deity form, faith in Krishna's name, faith in the remnants of Krishna's food, and faith in Krishna's teachings as they are given in such books as Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. Concerning the special obligations of a Brahmana, the Shruti states, Jayamano by Brahmanas, Tribir Rinavan Jayate, Brahmacharyena Rishibhyo, Yagyena Devabhya Prajaya Pratibhyaha. Whenever a Brahmana takes birth, 3 debts are born along with that Brahmana. One can pay his debt to the sages by celibacy. One can pay his debts to the demigods by sacrifice. And one can pay his debt to his forefathers by begetting children. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti, the very name Vasudeva indicates that Vasudeva manifests brilliantly devyati. He manifests super excellent wealth, Vasu. That wealth is pure devotional service. Later, when we come to the 11th canto, Narada will again meet with Vasudeva and at that time remind Vasudeva, Devarshi Bhutapta Nirnang Pratrinang Nakinkaro Nayam Rani Cha Rajan Sarvatmana Ya Sharanang Sharanyang Goto Mukundam Partiritya Kartam. O King, one who has given up all material duties and has taken full shelter at the lotus feet of Mukunda, who offers shelter to all, such a person is not at all indebted to the demigods, great sages, ordinary living beings, relatives, friends, mankind, or even one's forefathers who have passed away. Since all such classes of living entities are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, Krishna, one who has surrendered to the Lord's service has no need to serve such persons separately. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. This section is entitled The Sacrifice Performed by Vasudeva. After hearing all the sages, saintly Vasudeva offered respectful obeisances unto their lotus feet. In this way, Vasudeva pleased the sages and then elected for them to perform the yajna, the sacrifice. When the sages were elected as priests of the sacrifice, in turn they also induced Vasudeva to collect the required paraphernalia for executing the yajnas in that place of pilgrimage. Thus, Vasudeva was persuaded to start the performance of the yajnas, and all the members of the Yadu dynasty took their bath, dressed themselves very nicely, and decorated themselves beautifully, garlanding themselves with lotus flowers. All the wives of Vasudeva were dressed with nice garments and ornaments, and they also donned golden necklaces. They approached the arena of sacrifice, carrying in their hands the required articles to offer in the sacrifice. When everything was complete, there was heard the vibration of mridangas, conchs, kettle drums, and other musical instruments. Meanwhile, professional dancers, both male and female, began their dancing. The professional singers, such as the Sutas and Magadas, began offering prayers by their singing. The Gandharvas and their wives, whose voices were very sweet, began to sing many auspicious songs. Vasudeva then anointed his eyes with collyrium and eye lotion, and he smeared butter over his body. And then, along with his 18 wives, headed by Devaki, sat before the priests in order to be purified by the Abhishek ceremony. All such ceremonies were observed strictly according to the principles of the scriptures, as was done formerly, and in this case, Vasudeva resembled the moon encircled by stars. And because Vasudeva was being initiated for the sacrifice, he was dressed in deerskin, but all of his wives were dressed with very nice costly saris, bangles, necklaces, ankle bells, earrings, and many other ornaments. Vasudeva looked very beautiful, surrounded by his wives. In fact, he looked exactly like the king of heaven when Indra performed such sacrifice. At that time, when Lord Krishna and Lord Balaram, along with their wives, children, and relatives, sat down in that great sacrificial arena, it appeared that the Supreme Personality of Godhead was present along with all his part and parcel living entities and multi-energies. We have heard from the Shastras, Parasya Shaktir Vividhaiva Sruyate. Lord Krishna has multi-energies and parts and parcels, but now in that sacrificial arena, everyone could actually experience how the Supreme Personality of Godhead exists along with his different energies eternally. At that time, Lord Krishna appeared as Lord Narayana, and Lord Balaram appeared as Sankarshana, who is the reservoir of all living entities. Vasudeva satisfied Lord Vishnu by performing different kinds of sacrifice, such as Jyotishtoma and Darsha Purnamasa. Some of these sacrifices are called Prakrita, and some of them are known as Sauya Satra or Vikrita. Thereafter, other sacrifices known as Agnihotra were also performed, and the prescribed articles were offered in the proper way. In this way, Lord Vishnu became pleased. The ultimate purpose of offering oblations in sacrifice is to please Lord Vishnu. As it is stated in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Sang Siddhir Hari Toshanam. But in this age of Kali, it is very difficult to collect the different articles required for offering sacrifices. And people have neither the means to collect the required paraphernalia, nor the necessary knowledge, or even the tendency to offer such sacrifices. Therefore, according to Lord Chaitanya, and according to the Srimad Bhagavatam, in this age of Kali, when people are mostly unfortunate, full of anxieties, and disturbed by various kinds of calamities, Lord Chaitanya points out that according to the Shastras, the only recommended sacrifice in the age of Kali is the performance of Sankirtan Yajna. Krishna Varnam Tvisha Krishnam Sangopangastra Parshadam Yagyai Sankirtana Prayaya Yajanti Hi Sumedasa. The word Sumedasa means those who are very, very intelligent. Such persons will worship Lord Chaitanya by this Sankirtan Yajna, which is the only recommended process in this age. Sankirtan means complete glorification, meaning the chanting, describing, glorification of Krishna's name, fame, form, pastimes, entourage, paraphernalia, and instructions. After the performance of the different sacrifices, Vasudeva offered ample riches, clothing, ornaments, cows, land, and maidservants to the Purohitas, the priests. Thereafter, all the 18 wives of Vasudeva took their Avabhrita bath and performed that part of the sacrificial duties known as Patni Sangyaja. And after finishing the offering with all the required paraphernalia, they all took bath together in the lakes constructed by Parashuram, which are now known as Ram Hrada. After Vasudeva and his wives took bath, all the garments and ornaments which they wore were distributed to the subordinate persons who were engaged in singing, dancing, and similar activities. So we may note that the performance of sacrifice necessitates the profuse distribution of riches. Charity is offered to the priests and Brahmins in the beginning, and used garments and ornaments are offered in charity to the subordinate assistants after the performance of the sacrifice. After offering the used articles to the singers and reciters, Vasudeva and his 18 wives dressed themselves with new ornaments and dress, fed everyone very sumptuously, beginning from the Brahmanas down to the dogs. After this, all the friends, family members, wives, and children of Vasudeva, along with all the kings and members of the Vidarbha, Koshala, Kuru, Kashi, Kekai, and Srinjai dynasties, assembled together. The priests, demigods, people in general, forefathers, the ghosts, and the charanas were also all sufficiently remunerated by being offered ample gifts and respectful honor. Then all the persons assembled took permission from Lord Krishna, whose name is Madhava, husband of the goddess of fortune. And while glorifying the perfection of the sacrifice made by Vasudeva, everyone departed to their respective homes. And at that time, when King Dhritarashtra, Vidura, Yudhishthir, Bhima, Arjuna, Bhishmadev, Drona Acharya, Kunti, Nakula, Sahadev, Narada, Vyas, and many other relatives and kinsmen were about to part, all of them felt separation and therefore embraced each and every member of the Yadu dynasty with great feeling. Many others who were assembled in that sacrificial arena also departed. Now we have notes on this section. Devaki was Vasudev's principal wife, but Devaki had several co-wives, including her 6 sisters. This fact is recorded in the 9th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, where Shukadeva Goswami informs Parikshit, "My dear king, Ahuka had 2 sons named Devaka and Ugrasena. Devaka had 4 sons named Devavan, Upadeva, Sudeva, and Devavardhana. And Devaka also had 7 daughters named Shanti Deva, Upadeva, Sri Deva, Deva Rakshita, Sahadeva, Devaki, and Dhritadeva. And Dhritadeva was the eldest. Vasudeva, the father of Krishna, married all these sisters. Devaki, Pauravi, Rohini, Bhadra, Madira, Rochana, Illa, and others were all wives of Anakadundubi, which is another name for Vasudeva. But among them all, Devaki was the chief. There are numerous kinds of Vedic fire sacrifice, each of which involves elaborate rituals. The Brahmana portion of the Vedic Shruti specifies complete step-by-step procedure of only a few prototype sacrifices, such as Jyotishtoma and Darsha Purnamasa. These are called Prakrita or original yagyas. The details of other yagyas must be extrapolated from the patterns of these Prakrita injunctions according to the strict rules of the Mimamsa Shastra. Since other yagyas are thus known by derivation from these prototype sacrifices, they are called Vaikrita or changed. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This is entitled Vasudev Praises Nanda Maharaj. After this, Krishna and Balaram, along with King Ugrasena, satisfied the inhabitants of Vrindavan, headed by Maharaj Nanda and the other cowherder men, by profusely offering all kinds of gifts in order to worship them and please them. Out of their great feelings of friendship, the inhabitants of Vrindavan remained there for a considerable time, along with the members of the Yadu dynasty. After performing the sacrifice, Vasudev felt so satisfied, there was no limit to his happiness. All the members of his family were with him, and in their presence, Vasudev caught hold of the hands of Nanda Maharaj and addressed him in this way. My dear brother, the Supreme Personality of Godhead has created a great tie of bondage, and that is known as the bondage of love and affection. So I think that it is a very difficult job for even the great sages and saintly persons to cut such a tie of love. My dear brother, you have exhibited feelings of love for me which I have not been able to return. I therefore think that I must be ungrateful. O Nanda, you have behaved exactly as is characteristic of saintly persons. But I shall never be able to repay you. Why, I have no means to repay you for your friendly dealings. Nevertheless, I am confident that our tie of love will never break. Our relationship of friendship must continue forever, in spite of my inability to repay you. So I hope, Nanda, that you will excuse me for this inability. My dear brother Nanda, in the beginning, due to my being imprisoned by Kamsa, I could never serve you as a friend. And although at the present moment I am now very opulent, because of my material prosperity, I have become mad, I have become blind. I therefore cannot satisfy you properly, even at this time. Oh, my dear Nanda Baba, you are so nice and gentle that you offer all respect to others, but you don't care for any respect for yourself. A person seeking for auspicious progress in life must not possess too much material opulence with which to become blind and puffed up, but one should take care of his or her friends and relatives. When Vasudev was speaking to Nanda Maharaj in this way, Vasudev was influenced by a great feeling for the friendship of Nanda Maharaj and the beneficial activities executed by King Nanda on his behalf. As such, Vasudev's eyes filled with tears, and Vasudev began crying. Desiring to please his friend Vasudev, and being affectionately bound with love for Krishna and Balaram, Nanda Maharaj passed 3 months in their association. At the end of these 3 months, all the members of the Yadu dynasty tried to please the inhabitants of Vrindavan to their heart's content. The members of the Yadu dynasty tried to satisfy Nanda and his associates by offering them clothing, ornaments, and many other valuable articles. And so they all became satisfied. Vasudeva, Ugrasena, Krishna, Balaram, Uddhava, and all the other members of the Yadu dynasty presented their individual gifts to Nanda Maharaj and his associates. And after Nanda received these farewell presentations, Nanda, along with his associates, started for Brajabhumi, Vrindavan. However, the minds of the inhabitants of Vrindavan remained with Krishna and Balaram, and therefore it appeared all of them started for Vrindavan without their minds. When the members of the Vrishni family saw all their friends and visitors departing, they observed that the rainy season was approaching. Thus they decided to return to Dwaraka. They were now fully satisfied, for they regarded Krishna as everything, as it is stated by Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, Vasudeva Sarvam Iti. And when they returned to Dwaraka, they began to describe the sacrifice performed by Vasudeva with great satisfaction, and they described their meeting with the various friends and well-wishers and various other incidents which occurred during their travels in the place of pilgrimage at Kurukshetra. Lastly, there are some very interesting notes, so please listen carefully, because some of this information you will find to be very, very interesting. So here are the Bhagavatam notes. Heroic leaders of men try to transcend their petty attachment by force of will, while introspective yogis pursue knowledge for the same purpose. However, Krishna's illusory energy, Maya, is much stronger than any conditioned soul. I have to repeat that. Krishna's illusory energy, Maya, is much stronger than any conditioned soul. So only by taking shelter of Krishna, the Lord of Maya, can one become immune to the influence of Maya. This is the meaning of that verse in the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Daivi hi esha gunamayi mamamaya duratyaya. Duratyaya means Maya is much stronger than any other conditioned soul. Let us continue. While living under the tyranny of Kamsa, Vasudeva was unable to do anything to help Nanda and his subjects to defend themselves against the many demons sent from Mathura to kill Krishna and Balaram. So of course, it was out of his deep humility that Vasudeva berated himself. But Vasudeva's condemnation of opulence is in general valid. Earlier in the 10th canto, Narada Muni delivered a stinging criticism of Nalakubra and Manigriva, the two wealthy human sons of Kubera, who is the treasurer of heaven. They were at that time intoxicated with pride and liquor. The two boys had failed to offer proper respects to Naradaji, when he happened upon them as they were sporting naked in the Mandakini River with some young women. Seeing them in their shameful condition, at that time Narada said, Nahi anyo jushato jyosyan buddhi brangsho rajo guna Sri madad abhijat yadir yatra stri dyuktam asava. Narada said that among all the attractions of material enjoyment, the attraction of riches bewilders one's intelligence more than having beautiful bodily features, taking birth in an aristocratic family, and being learned. When one is uneducated but falsely puffed up by wealth, the result is that one engages one's wealth in enjoying wine, women, and gambling. Now comes the nectar of nectar. This is worth the price of admission to today's class. After settling that he would leave first thing in the morning, Nanda would then decide, nah, I'll go later today. And then, when afternoon came, Nanda said, okay, I'll just stay until tomorrow. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti suggests one possible reason for Nanda's procrastination. For Nanda secretly intended to bring Krishna back with him to Vraja. At the same time, Nanda did not want to break Vasudev's heart. Thus, Nanda's indecision continued for 3 months. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti, at the end of the 3 months, Maharaj Nanda approached Krishna and spoke to him. Oh, my dear son, for one drop of perspiration from your divine face, I am ready to give up countless lives. Let us now leave for Vraja, for I cannot spend any more time here. Then Nanda went to Vasudeva and said, my dear friend, please send Krishna to Vraja. And Nanda requested King Ugrasena, please order my friend Vasudeva to do this, for if you refuse, I will have to drown myself here in Lord Parashuram's lake. Just watch if you do not believe me. Try to understand. We people of Vraja came to this holy place of Kurukshetra not to gain some piety on the occasion of the solar eclipse. No! We came here to bring Krishna back or else die. Hearing these desperate words from Nanda, Vasudeva and the others tried to pacify Nanda with valuable gifts. Well versed in the arts of diplomacy, Vasudeva consulted with his most trustworthy advisors and satisfied Nanda by telling him, oh, my dearest friend, O King of Vraja, it is of course true that none of you can live without Krishna. And how can we allow you to kill yourself? Therefore, by all means, I must send Krishna back to Vraja. So, I will do so right after we accompany Krishna and his relatives and friends among them many helpless women, and bring them back to Dwaraka. Then, the very next day, without trying to obstruct Krishna in any way, I, Vasudeva, will let Krishna leave for Braja at an auspicious time of the day. This I swear to you 1,000 times over. After all, how can we who came here with Krishna go home without him? What will people say about us? O Nanda, you are a great scholar in all these matters, so please forgive me for making this request of you. Next, Ugrasena addressed Nanda Maharaj. O my dear master of Braja, I bear witness to Vasudeva's statement and take this solemn vow. I will send Krishna back to Braja, even if I have to do so by force. But just then, Lord Krishna, joined by Uddhava and Balaram, privately spoke to Nanda. Dear Father, try to understand. If I go back directly to Braja today, leaving aside all these Vrishnis, they will die from the pain of separation from me. Then many thousands of enemies, more powerful than even Keshi and Arishta, will come to annihilate all these kings. Since I am omniscient, I know what is inevitably going to happen to me. So listen, and I will describe it to you. After returning to Dwaraka, I will receive an invitation from Yudhishthira, and I will go to Indraprastha to participate in his Rajasuya sacrifice. There, I will kill Shishupal, after which I will once again return to Dwaraka and then kill Shalva. Next, I will travel to a place just south of Mathura to save all of you residents of Vrindavan by killing the great demon Dantavakra. Then I will go back to Vraja, see all my old friends, and once again sit in your lap, my father, with great pleasure. Indeed, with great happiness, I will spend the rest of my life with you and all the residents of Vrindavan. God himself has written this face on my forehead, and it has also been written on your foreheads. What is written? That until the day I return, you must tolerate separation from me. Neither of our destinies can possibly be changed. So please find the courage to leave me here for now and go home to Vraja. And if in the meantime, my dear parents, my beloved friends, if you are distressed by the unavoidable fate written on our foreheads, then whenever you wish to feed me some delicacy or play some game with me, or you simply want to see me, just close your eyes and I will appear before you to turn your torment into sky flowers, and thus I will fulfill all your desires. I promise you this, and the young friends of mine whose lives I saved in the forest fire can all vouch for this. Convinced by all these arguments that Krishna's happiness was of prime importance, Nanda accepted the gifts offered to him, took his leave, and was accompanied by the Yadu's large army. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.